on the channel for another week of collage. I'm going through a couple of magazines, and I'm actually at a place where I'm not really finding anything that is really inspiring another collage. Just grabbing material that I believe has potential, trying to be a little bit more courageous in choosing images that I may not normally choose. I had this from a couple weeks ago, and I cut it out the way I wanted to. It's cool, I guess. I'm just not sure if I'm going to use it for this collage or when I'm going to use it, but I'll definitely use it somewhere. This was from the Hawaiian magazine, then an old GQ magazine from the pandemic, actually, because there's a lot of articles referencing that. And also this book on Indigenous Australia. So I haven't chosen too much, and as I've shared before, I like having too much ephemera to choose from, which presents two problems. But number one is that maybe I will have more than one focal point and things can get messy and confusing. So I just need to kind of narrow down what my focal point is. And at this point, I don't have one. I thought maybe this would be a good focal point. I'm not sure. I love the background a lot. I like the image too, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a focal point. Here I'm choosing the Escher-like pattern design going on, not so much the models themselves, but the patterns that are surrounding them. And then a naturescape and a cityscape. Put that off to the side. I also have my book of stamps on the ready, because I feel like making a smaller collage today. When that's the case, the stamps can be very, very helpful. So I'm going to look through here and probably grab another piece of ephemera. In my travels, I usually try to grab doubles, if I'm able to, of magazines and other publications. Not to bogart them. I'll just usually take two, maybe three. It depends. This proves it because I have the same image I cut out. It came from this one, so you actually get to see it right here. Does that offer any sort of possibility? It could. I see something going on here because I have doubles. That's always fun when you have doubles like this because it allows you to do other things. I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. This is why I take doubles of publications, but it's also why I don't toss any publications really until I know they've ran their course and they're pretty much empty. So I was recognizing a lot of images from other videos that I've done. This image was in Priscilla's Pursuers. So I'm not going to use it this time because I like it and I might use it again or a portion of it. That is why I'm seeing things. I'm like, oh, this is a repeat. But I always return anew to these magazines that I chopped up. This one I remember from, I believe it was Nesting. I used her face for that. Oh, and this one. This was from Runic. So yes, we definitely used this magazine before. I had no idea when I grabbed it, and that's besides the point. And I'm looking at it with new eyes. So it's kind of like reading a book that you read as a kid that maybe you really didn't like it, but you read it as an adult and you get something more out of it, or you're watching a movie or a TV series again and you get more out of it, or maybe you wonder what did I even see in this? It's kind of the same when you hang on to ephemera. One of the magazines I did go through was this GQ magazine, and it was from the pandemic. Well, it was March of 2021. And I've been through this magazine a couple times. I'm not done with it though. So I kind of like put it at the bottom of a pile so I don't keep picking it up. Probably should have done the same with this magazine, but it's still fairly intact. See now, but I'm looking at this image and I may just want to use the legs. What I'll do is just take out the whole image and put that off to the side. I am slowly trying to acquire my focal point or build a focal point, especially if I take this image and pair it with this one and decide if I kind of think I know what I want to do. Okay, just saying that makes me realize I think I'm getting close to a focal point. That is part of my process. I really try to find out what is my focal point. I had a wonderful drawing teacher in college who would constantly ask that question: where's your focal point? What do you want your audience to be looking at? And that was such an important part of me learning about composition. I think composition is something that can be taught, but it's something that needs to be practiced. A person can be born, say, with a musical ability, but until they take classes and they practice, you really don't know anything about it. They don't just pick up the instrument unless they're a prodigy and they start playing, but they have to have some exposure and some type of mentor to show them the way. And it's the same with art, I feel. Until you actually start practicing it and turn the ego off enough to listen to what somebody who has more knowledge about it tell you what to do, then you're on your way. And I'm still learning. And I always appreciate mentors, though I don't rely on them nearly as much as maybe I should. So I love the surreal ideal that's coming with this piece. I grabbed a couple stamps. The only thing about grabbing stamps from the stamp album is now storing them, because I removed their little hinges, which are very crusty and old and probably don't have any adhesive on them anyway. So this is, oh my gosh. So I'm going to have to store these. If I don't use them, I need to find a safe place to store them. And they're old, they're delicate, and I don't want to lose them either. Still attracted to circles. I think I'm always going to be attracted to the circle. Figure something out there. So I think I want to use these. I'm not sure about this. I do like these patterns. Might be able to incorporate that. I also love the patterns of the Aboriginal peoples of Australia. I would like to learn more about that just on a historical perspective. Did take an art history class about Indigenous art, and it was fascinating, but it was a while back, and it was just really just a survey and just barely scratched the surface of meaning and intensity. Look at that. I love hands, and obviously I love the image, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use it. Nice waterfall. Don't know how to use it. Grabbed another watch, and I was thinking about Clockhead, and I really enjoyed building that collage. I like the spectrum going on here. Might be able to use it. And I love how this watch face is showing the inner guts of a watch. I thought about using her as a focal point, but I found another image. I thought I pulled it out. I showed it to everybody. Oh yes, here he is. Of this model. So I'm going to pare it down even more. I do like this image too, but I want to use this one because we are going for this more surreal quality. I think I'm kind of veering into that direction. So this is where the building starts. This may not make it into the collage. See, he's so okay. Yeah, this is what I may want to do. This is where my thinking's going, is maybe a tug of war between these two hands. So I'll be removing this boot, and he has this mirror image of him. I may want to cut that out and put something else in, and what that is, I don't know. We'll find out as we continue on with this collage journey. going on in this image, because obviously the model is using the mirror directed by the photographer to do so. And I know if I cut out this portion of the mirror, that's going to provide something that could be really surreal for a collage. So that being the case, I haven't done any real clean cuts yet. I maintained the square surface, the square shape of the mirror, just in case I decide to stay with it. It does look interesting. Still in the thinking process, but we freed our hands. I also didn't cut them entirely free because I'm worried that, they're going to separate, and I kind of want to keep everything together while I'm working, so I'm not, running around, or not running around, just sitting here shuffling through my stuff, figuring out where did I put that piece and where did I put that piece, and it gets a little crazy there. So I was thinking about these hands, maybe doing something of a tug of war with this image. And I'm not sure how the stamps are going to come into play here. I don't think they're going to, which is, it's whatever, because I wanted something vintage also in this piece. I like having something vintage appear in my pieces. Maybe the Romanian stamp will fit. I do like this for a possibility as a circular image. I also feel that the piece needs a background. I like this background. We do have our model here. I'm just going to go ahead and trim her out, actually. Nothing precise, because I don't think I'm going to use her for collage today. Maybe in the future. I'm just trimming her out and maintaining as much as I can of the background to see if I can glean anything from it. So the background's kind of cool. This nice dark background. Looks like it went through some filters, and that would offer a very nice contrast to our guy, and that would also leave it to be kind of it would be a smaller collage, so maybe I won't have room for these pieces. Now, there's a lot going on in these images with the model, so I don't have enough of the pattern by itself for a background, so that's kind of a bummer. I'd also looked at these pair of hands. I thought these were going to be my big time focal point, and I guess in a way, if I wanted to switch things up, it's not as interesting, because I thought maybe these hands pulling on these hands. I don't know. That could work, but I don't know if I want to do that. I don't think it'll be as interesting, so I'm just going to put that off to the side. And I feel, my thing about having some element of vintage in my work is kind of showing through. I do like this. Like I shared before, I love my circles. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and play with it for a minute. I think I only want to use the border though. Just cut out the rest of this gentleman from his mirror. I think it looks really, really cool, especially with this background going on. And I was thinking about this background because it almost seems like he's coming out of a wall of some sort, the way the mirror image was shaped. So that has possibilities also for the design. I'm going to eventually cut off these pieces. For whatever reason, I'm not comfortable cutting them just yet. For the hands, when I was cutting the hands, I sometimes will cut between the fingers, and I held off doing that because I wasn't sure if I want anything to interlock like I sometimes do in some of my collages, or I interlace limbs and I have to make these careful cuts along the natural line of the original photographic image. So I held off I usually hold off until the last minute until I'm absolutely certain. I don't want to make a cut if I don't have to, even if it corresponds well with the original image, in this case these fingers. But now I'm pretty certain that I will want to somehow interlace the fingers with the image of the male model to give it more of a feeling of grasping and that it looks like it belongs there, even though it's completely absurd and ridiculous in a fun way. So I'll just carefully cut out some pieces in between the fingers, clean it up just a little bit. It was a fairly good cut. There are some edges along the fingers. When I use my X-Acto knife, I run into a very small problem that the edges of fingers in particular get to look a bit ragged and pointy, and I don't like that, even though it's kind of hard to discern in a final image that I did something like that. I like to round them off. I like them to be nice and round and smooth. So I'm just cleaning up the nails a little bit, giving them something of a manicure, and dividing the fingers. And I think here I'm going to go ahead and make more of a cut. The hands should still be attached. Looking at the image, it appears that they should stay attached. They just won't be, they're not super secure. So they're barely hinged together by a little piece of paper. Not happy about that, but if it falls apart, it's not a big deal. I just didn't want to be worrying about the hands being separated and going through mountains of ephemera trying to find a little piece that I cut. I think, so see here, there's it's just a little bit. Okay, that lifted up pretty well. Let's check the nails. Nails are pretty clean. I'm going to just cut off a dark edge here. These scissors probably appear to be bulky for doing such delicate cutting. I do like them though. I haven't had a problem with them. I have nothing to compare them to. I've heard of other collage artists that use surgical scissors for their pieces. That's really impressive. It's kind of like a ceramicist using dental tools for their craft. I am not there yet. I have not purchased any surgical tools as of yet to do my collage cutting. Probably would be a good investment. Okay, so that is done, that hand. Do the same here. Try to keep things hinged, removing that little bit. Always easier with the X-Acto. I could come in here with the scissors. I like using the X-Acto for these, obviously these tiny areas. This is probably where surgical scissors may come in handy, and if somebody's more comfortable using that than an X-Acto blade, then they certainly should give that a try. Make sure we have a nice clean cut. I don't want any ragged edges. I don't want anything square because we're dealing with the human body, the human form. Nowhere on the human form is there such a thing as a straight line. Okay, so I was thinking something along the lines of this, maybe. Let me just go ahead and get rid of this now too. Now this straight edge also lends itself to this. And I thought about maybe doing the image this way and having it be a tug of war. I've got a lot of names also going on with this Gemini grab or tug of war. I like Gemini grab though. I like that a lot. Background is becoming an issue right now. Not a huge issue because there's several options, and if I want to, ultimately I can just scan everything into Photoshop and play with backgrounds, which is always a solution and an option. Right now I'm just trying to decide how I would like to do this. I think I want to do something like this, and this is why we cut in between the fingers. So I could do something like this. Tucking one finger in front and one in back. And one of maybe, yeah, something like this. That is kind of cool. I like that. Just this. Okay. So along those lines, and this. Wow, it really does look like the hands are grabbing this body. Now, do I want to do it this way? That's different. He is really our focal point. This guy right there. This guy. He's kind of our focal point. Nice dark background to make everything really speak. I had done some other cuts. This was the little knob on the edge of the watch, and then I cut this out from one of the stamps. I don't think it's going to add anything to the collage if I put that in. I thought about putting it in somewhere like this and then maybe adding the knob. I don't think it adds anything. This for sure doesn't. I'll hang on to it for something else. I'm not even sure if this says anything or if it helps the image. And then we have our watch face. And I thought about something like this because it frames everything almost, not quite. It's not showing enough of the piece to me. I don't think that little bit's going to make any difference to the image. We could also put the watch on back. That could be interesting. I like this background because it's dark. I think I need a larger background because I don't have enough of this background. I could sneak something in like this. That almost works because of the biomorphic feel of the black and purple. But I don't know. I feel I'm being lazy doing that. But you can almost get away with it. Let me switch it on the other side. If it doesn't work out, when you're collaging, flip it upside down, turn it to another side. It might work on that end. This, I could get away with this. I could almost get away with this. It's not a bad thing. There's also this, because I said this guy on the edge, he looks like he's coming out of a wall. It can be intensified by something like this. And I actually like that ripped look. I don't know, but in any case, I think we're nearing completion. And I'm gonna I'm going to finish up here. I think we're almost done. I dove back into my magazine pile and I just decided to keep things simple and have a nice solid background for now. I did play with the guts of this clock, which I think are a lot of fun, but I just think it's too busy for what I want to do here, although this isn't looking terrible. I'm not sure if this is what I want. Maybe I do. I was playing with it off camera. This is not bad. And the cropping that would go into this would be fairly minimal. I did make some cuts. Not there. Where did I make those cuts? I made some. Here they are. I made some cuts here because I thought about tucking the other part of the male image through here, so it looks like he's coming out. I'll cut that later if I stay with this. Wouldn't mind having his elbow in there. So if I do that, let me just do a quick cut here. And it doesn't hurt anything. Everything remains intact. It turns into a simpler collage. So I can get away with this noisier background, at least I feel I can. I wonder. Okay. Put those in there like this, just to be on the safe side since I'm liking the way the direction this is going. I used some drafting tape to keep everything in place before I make any commitment. I'll do the same with those pieces that are now intertwined with the clock face. Okay, and I'll just make the adjustable cuts later. I think we're headed in the right direction. So I thought about going this way, making the orientation more of a portrait, but we can also go this way. I'm not sure if it's as interesting. It's hard to see, so I think we need to, or we could even do a diamond shape like this. What about this? Tuck that in here, maybe. The hands. Yeah. Something like this. It's more of a minimal piece. It may be a case of I need to leave it alone for a while. I need to go do something this afternoon. So I think I'm going to leave it here and check it out in a few hours and see how I feel about it. I've been using a lot of watches lately in my work and I like them. I just don't want to overdo it. It's, again, like having too much chocolate. It tastes great. It's always your go-to. You fall back on it, but after a while you get a bellyache and you kind of get sick of it, even though it's your favorite food. I don't want to overdo my welcome with my watch faces. I do like them, but I don't want to overdo it. Let me tuck these fingers here. Intertwining. See, I already went through this. I was already doing this off camera, playing with that, and that's sticking up too much. I'll need to do more of a cut, or his head's too big. And then we can always go back to the plane. I think it needs something a little bit more. There was this. Oh boy. Not sure. Okay, back to it. There's plenty of time. Sunday afternoon, so I can definitely think about it. Sometimes I'll sleep on it, or I'll leave the studio for a week and come back a week later and say, I love it, or I'm starting over again. That doesn't happen very often. But I'll check on it in a few hours and see how I feel. It's done. I actually have been gone from the studio for about a week, and I came back, played with some backgrounds, played with this beautiful piece. You will see this again in a video. I tried to use it as a frame for the piece, but it's just too big, the main focal point itself. I also really loved using this as a possible background, but again, I think it was just too much. This is a possibility. Less is more. We're gonna keep it simple. I also started playing with some of the stamps and using them maybe as backgrounds. This is a minimal collage. In other words, there's really 3 pieces of ephemera. The 2 hands, and then he was one object because he was holding himself up as a mirror. And then the background, which I absolutely love, this wonderful ombre of periwinkle from a photograph in a real estate magazine. So there you have it. That is the video for this week. That is our collage for the week. And I think I want to name it Tug of War or something like that. Anyway, you'll hear about that in the description and the thumbnail and all that good stuff. Thank you again for joining me on this joyous collage journey, and I will see you next time.